GLP-1s, AI, longevity. 2026 is the year not of motivation, but of building systems. The better the system, the increased likelihood that you are going to achieve your goals. I have just noticed that this thing is sitting right in the way, which is super, super annoying. It's a dismal day here in the UK, so I'm trying my best to accommodate the lack of natural light up in this room. So what I'm going to do is see if it works better. There we go. It's a bit more comforting. Is that versus having a light in the background? 2026, this is going to be the year that artificial intelligence is integrated into almost everything that you do, including the smartwatches and the variables, the wearables, the variables in terms of health, fitness, wellness. We've already seen a massive rise in artificial intelligence in the medical and in the health space, which is going to provide a ton of benefit to a lot of people. Hi, my name's Abi Khan. I am a personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, and nutritionist, and I have been in the health and fitness space for the past 15 years. During that time, I have coached one-to-one over 25,000 hours. So I've done more than my 10,000 hours worth. So I know a little bit of stuff about this, as I'm sure you're about to find out. This also includes not just my own knowledge, but working with literally the smartest minds on the planet. And funnily enough, not one of those is a fitness influencer. But these people are the ones that pioneer the industry. They are the giants from whose shoulders we stand upon, and that everybody else stands upon as well. So I'm super excited to be able to delve into this because we got some notes. We got some stuff that we're going to be able to go through. And really all centers around the biggest wellness trends of 2026. Many of them are already in place, but with the ones that are in place, we're about to see a drastic increase in how many people are using them, their integration into just normal society, and what it's going to mean for people achieving results or being more confused than ever. Let me apologize in advance because I'm sick. I'm coming down or I've come down with a fair bit of a cold. So if I'm coughing 24/7, I apologize in advance. Where we're actually going to start this is an interesting topic, and that is on GLP-1s. For people that don't know, a GLP-1 is a glucagon-like peptide. Essentially, it's a hormone that is released in the gut after you consume food. So really what it does is it regulates appetite and stabilizes blood sugar. So after we consume food, GLP-1 is increased to say, hey, appetite is now done. It is suppressed. I'm going to increase satiety so that I don't just continually stuff myself. A contrarian take on GLP-1s is this. GLP-1s didn't fix the obesity epidemic. It revealed just how broken our lifestyle is. Think about it this way. We had to create something that's going to stop us, prevent us from consuming food, from stuffing food in our mouth, knowing very, very clearly that it is going to create a negative cascade of effects metabolically, cardiovascularly, and not improve our lifestyle whatsoever, including just how we feel about ourselves, being able to look in the mirror and think, shit, this is not how I thought things would go. A contrarian take, I know, but hear me out. There are definitely some pros and cons. Doctors are prescribing GLP-1s much earlier in dietary interventions. When we're looking at a dietary intervention, essentially what we're trying to say is the current behaviors of this individual are not working. What can we do in order to be able to help them? Now, for a long time, that was behavioral change. It was a case of, hey, we need to create some adjustments to your dietary protocol, to your general movement protocol. And for a long time, the prescriptions kind of worked and they kind of didn't. They're a bit hit and miss. Sometimes, depending on the severity of the diagnosis, people would have to go see a cognitive or a behavioral psychologist in order to be able to deal and address things such as emotional eating or eating disorders in general. People would have to go see nutritionists to be able to get some kind of plan. They would have to go see personal trainers or physical therapists in order to be able to learn how to move well, move correctly, and move injury-free, really, especially if somebody is coming to go see their doctor and they're not in great of health. I mean, why else would you go and see your doctor? You're generally going to go in when everything seems a little bit fucked and you don't seem like there's really any opportunity to be able to get better. What we're seeing nowadays is that, not all, but some doctors are going straight to the GLP-1 because of the effects of it. Now, this isn't to say that all GLP-1s are bad, and they're not bad in general. Essentially, there are going to be reasons, and there's going to be, I guess, opportunities, for lack of a better word, where this is the coldness kicking in, right? Brain fog, where GLP-1s can be a bad idea, and they also can be a good idea. The negative sort of cascade comes from people relying on them and becoming reliant on them, thinking, well, if I can consume this, my appetite is therefore going to be suppressed, which means that I'm not going to consume enough or enough food throughout the day, or putting myself basically into a voluntary calorie deficit. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to feel better because of that, which are positive signs. But the negativity comes from the emerging problem of lean muscle mass loss. People consuming this, not still getting sufficient protein in their diet and not resistance training. So the body doesn't really have a reason to be able to sustain or to continue to build muscle tissue, which is going to affect bone density as well. So things like osteoporosis can be a real issue coming later on into life. And the long-term dependency on this, again, people seeing this with any dietary protocol of a history that says, hey, you need to cut out a bunch of stuff, whether it is a whole food group, such as if you're looking at carnivore, for example, or even just vegans or vegetarians, whatever. We're looking to try to cut things out. And there's obviously religious reasons behind that, which we will get into, because I don't want to create too many arguments on the internet, although sometimes they happen anyway. The long-term dependency on these means that there is no long-term behavioral change. It's a case of, well, if I just use this for a period of time, I can still kind of consume whatever I want, knowing that I won't consume enough to be able to still gain body fat. But what it will do in a positive manner is allow me to be able to lose weight, which does also have some real world health benefits. As I mentioned, all GLP-1s aren't bad, and they're not generally bad in general. It's just the usage of them by the individual and trying to understand, why am I actually doing this? Where GLP-1s can be really, really positive is if you are on a health and fitness journey, and whether at the beginning stage of a health and fitness journey, just to try to give yourself a bit of a runway. It's like, hey, if we can consume a GLP-1, such as semaglutide, for example, I can suppress my hunger enough so that I'm not over consuming calories. While I'm doing that, I'm starting to slowly improve my food choices. I'm starting to look at improving my sleep, putting some more effort into my sleep hygiene. I am looking at walking more. I'm looking at exercising more. I've joined a gym, hired a personal trainer, whatever it might be. They can be used as almost like a supplementary. They can be used as assisting with, not as the prime, like I'm just going to have this one thing and I don't need to worry about it at all. So they're not a negative or a positive. It's not like a clear cut, hey, don't take them or have them. There are some very, very clear scientific or medical benefits to consuming or taking GLP-1s for a period of time. But in my opinion, I don't think that we should be dependent on them, because what we're really looking for is long-term behavioral change. And that long-term behavioral change is going to come from the actions that you take. You still have to put in effort. You can't just hope to, it's like the old bodybuilding days where you're like, hey, just take this steroid and you'll be massive and you'll be shredded and you'll look great and girls will want you more. It's like, it ain't gonna happen like that. Instead, I think GLP-1s can definitely use as a supplementary benefit in order to assist you on your health and fitness journey. Another big topic that we're going to be looking into is fit tech and AI, and such as Apple Health, Whoop, Aura Ring. These are just things that I've been thinking about over the last couple of days. And really, health itself is becoming an algorithm. When we're looking at data such as, let's say, your Whoop, it will track your sleep. You'll get a sleep score. So we'll try to gamify things, which makes things a little bit more entertaining. Not a bad thing at all. We're looking at monitoring things like HRV, which is your heart rate variability. We're looking at monitoring your stress levels. We're looking at monitoring fatigue, so stress management, fatigue management. There's a bunch of other things depending on the device that you use. The excuse me, the challenges are quite wide with this. We're looking at a couple of things: data ownership, people, companies, big tech, being able to use your data as and when they kind of want to. That's a common issue that we have, and it's like people with their phones. Like your phone's always listening. Some people have a little bit of an issue with that. It can also increase health anxiety. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you're looking at your heart HRV, so your heart rate variability. People get a score. They go, oh, my HRV score is this. The challenge becomes is when people don't understand something, they buy into whatever they are told. And this is largely on the internet why influencers can say whatever they want, regardless of what industry they're in, whether it's fitness, whether it's health, whether it's wellness, whatever it might be. And people will believe them. It's like, oh, I don't know, but I like this person. I've got the quote unquote no like and trust with them. So I'm just going to believe whatever it is they say, even though whatever they are saying is incorrect. What I love about some people in the health and fitness world who are very, very intelligent people, and they will go out of their way to not call people out, but break down all the inadequacies or break down all the scientific data that they've come out with. Science says this, study says this, evidence should suggest this, but they never cite anything. There's nothing there. It's like me just saying, well, evidence shows that, and I can just say whatever the fuck I want. But if I don't cite anything or reference a paper, where's the meta-analysis? Where's the peer-reviewed study? Where is this thing? There's a really popular one that lately came out, and it was, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's Kim Kardashian's, I think, cardiologist, and he was saying a bunch of nonsense, and he got put onto a podcast with another very respected doctor, Dr. Mike something, and he was very openly, and he was really good at doing it too. He wasn't a dick about it. Just asking him what studies he's referencing, or where are the peer review studies? Like, where's the data so we can take a look at it? And the guy never answered the question. And this is one of the leading experts in the world, working with the biggest celebrities in the world, and he's been on the biggest podcasts in the world too. But there's just nothing there. So people can cite whatever they want. People can just make up whatever they want. So increased health anxiety is HRV. Your Whoop says XYZ. Okay, your HRV score is low, for example, and your Whoop score determines that you should take a rest day for whatever reason. But if you don't understand what to do with that, as in you don't understand your heart rate variability, and essentially what that is just the difference between beats. Okay, we should have inadequacies or inaccuracies. It's probably the wrong word to be able to use, but it should change. We should see differences. It shouldn't be beat, beat. We should have little spikes and little lows. And basically what it's addressing is how sympathetic or parasympathetic your nervous system is, okay, which is your stress and relaxed response is basically sitting at two different ends of the spectrum. And if you're too stressed out or you're too sympathetic, your sympathetic drive is really, really high. We know that largely that comes with that is that stress is going to be increased, cortisol is going to be increased, and recovery might plummet because of that. If you're a little bit more parasympathetic, that's where you chilled, you rest, you relax, you're sleeping, digestion is good, and all that sort of stuff. So basically, it determines a score between that, okay? But if you don't know that, it can make you feel quite anxious because it's like, well, I'm being told all these things, but I don't know what to do with this. So fit tech will likely, in my opinion, increase anxiety unless education is kind of going to be paired with that. And the challenge does become, and this has always been the way, at least for a minute now, is that people will look at data over their feelings. So they will look at objective data, being what the score says on something, versus subjective data, being how you are feeling. What's my energy like? What do I feel my energy is like? How do I think I've slept? What do I feel my digestion is like? What do I feel like my recovery is? And what is quite common is that if your score is low and you're told to have a rest day, people will have the rest day, but actually feel quite fine. And then they may go in the next day and say, no, you're ready to train, and just feel really shitty. It's really important to understand the subjective nature of things and the objective nature, because the objective is still great. It's still metric. It's still something. It's data. It's a metric. But what happens is the interpretation of the data. What do you do with the data that you are presented with? Okay. So it's really important to be able to understand, I need to take my subjective nature, how am I feeling, with the objectiveness of whatever the score is showing me, and I need to kind of pair those two together. Sometimes you might get a shitty score in your Whoop, for example. I'm not, Whoop's great, by the way. I'm not bagging on Whoop whatsoever. We're just using it as an example because it's popular and everyone knows where it is. But your Whoop's going might say, hey, you need to take a rest day today. But you feel quite fine. Go in and warm up. Go in, warm up, maybe do the first working set of whatever the exercise. So you got a barbell back squat. Do the first warm-up set. Then maybe do the first working set and see how you feel. If you still feel awful, you're like, cool, job's done. Wash my hands. I'm going to go grab a coffee and just chill out today. But if you feel good, then go for it. There's a really cool story of a British Olympic athlete. Can't remember her name, but she's a gold medalist. And she said something along the lines of, when she was speaking with her coach, he said 33% of the law of thirds. It's like 33% of the time your workouts are going to be fucking awful. 33% of the time they're going to be very mediocre. And 33% of the time they're going to be exceptional. It's like you have to be willing to suffer the bottom 66% in order to be able to get the top echelon here, the top third. Okay. Which is a really good framework to have. And it's absolutely true. The other challenge with fit tech is it is fucking expensive. Yes, as technology starts to get more efficient over time, costs can be lower, but fuck me, it is expensive. I cannot tell you the amount of people that I have had conversations with that are out of shape, that are not training well, not sleeping well, not eating well, but they have got all the fucking gadgets. They've got all the gear and no idea. And they hope that, oh, well, I've got my Whoop subscription, I've got my smartwatch, I've got my Normatec fucking boots. Everything else is shit, but I've got these. So somehow I've justified to myself that magic is going to occur and I'm going to get great results. And I've met many of these people. And it is always the people that achieve fucking nothing. Nothing. Because all the most elite people in the world, if you talk to any of the elite athletes, whether it is in basketball, American football, in rugby league, in football, those things are the kind of 5%. They're the upper echelon. These are like I need to nail all the other things first. My training needs to be on point. My nutrition needs to be on point. My sleep, my digestion, my stress management, all of these things. And then I can add the little kind of sprinkle on top of the cupcake. Okay. But you can't add the sprinkle on top of the cupcake without the base level there. Okay. And really what it creates is analysis paralysis. And really what it creates is people just looking at something and having so many different things coming at them that they just don't. 1 minute, I think my kid's crying. And we're back. Toddlers. Analysis paralysis. That's where we were. You got so much information that you don't know what the fuck to do with that information. But there are positives. There are certainly positives. When we're looking at the benefits of fit tech is people are becoming more health conscious, which is great, which is the whole idea, is to be able, whether it's working with myself as a coach or any other coach in the world, people are becoming more health conscious, which is kind of the macro. We don't, as coaches, need to help everybody. We need to maximize the amount of people that we can help. We want to help as many people as possible. But even if someone is with someone else and they're not with myself, or they're not with the companies that I work for, they're not with, the company that I work for, slow my words, companies that I work for, whether it's now or in the past, it doesn't matter. What really matters is that the person is getting the guidance that they need. That is fundamentally the best case scenario. And really what we're trying to do is the Hippocratic oath, is just like do no harm. Try to help as many people as we possibly can in order to be able to improve their life, which as a society improves everybody's life. If you've got a bunch of sick people, obese people, unhealthy people around you, it's going to have a knock-on effect to the rest of society. But if you have a bunch of healthy people, you go to this is a good thought process, especially people if you've traveled a little bit. If you go to a health conscious place, it makes you want to be healthier. There's certain places in Australia. Bondi Beach is quite a health conscious place. It's in Sydney, in New South Wales. There's also places up in the Gold Coast, in Queensland. People are outside and they're healthy and they're making smart choices. And even just being around those people makes you want to do the same. So I think we definitely have a knock-on effect to that. And it starts very, very young. You can start to cultivate this curiosity about health. Not that you have to be anything extreme, but curiosity about health when you're a kid or in your kids, then they're going to grow up to be healthy. And then so on and so forth. You start to be generationally healthy. It only takes one really unhealthy, one really obese person to be able to have a negative knock on to their lineage, right? Which is a real shame because nothing positive comes from that. And again, you don't have to be extreme with anything. Life is all about balance and all that sort of stuff. But I think that if we can just instill the curiosity of health to our kids, then we're going to ensure that they live a better life because they're not going to be in pain and suffer with all the potential metabolic diseases that an unhealthy person is, which really just brings on to the topic of longevity. And really, longevity in 2026 means metabolic health, which is looking at a healthy body composition, good blood pressure, a healthy waist circumference, low body fat, just generally feeling good. Nobody wants to wake up and feel like shit and just feel tired, exhausted, fatigued. People want to actually be able to go out in day-to-day life and feel good. And if you feel good, you act good. You're more of a polite person. You're more of a kind person. You're not an absolute twat of an individual. Because most times when people are assholes, they're projecting what they're feeling out to the world. So if you're a healthy individual, you're going to be more active. You're going to be more enjoyable to be around. You're not going to be a boring twat at parties. There's massive benefits of being just healthy. Again, you don't have to be at the extreme ends of anything, just a little bit healthier. Longevity in 2026 is also about muscle retention. People are starting to really care about the positive benefits of muscle tissue, especially as it pertains to later in life. If you are or you know people, probably grandparents, even parents who are in their 70s and 80s, 90s, it only takes one bad slip in the kitchen for a hip to potentially break. And the downside of that is that ain't going to heal the way it should have done. They ain't going to heal the way it would have been when they're in their 20s and 30s. A brittle bone disease, osteoporosis, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a disease, but as you start to get older, your bones will become a little bit more brittle. Having a bad fall could put you in a retirement home. Can't move anymore. That's a pretty lonely life to be able to have, especially if you could have done something about it earlier in life. And what we're really looking for is in order to be able to build muscle tissue, we need sufficient amount of protein. Depending on what studies you look at, we're looking at really somewhere between the 1.2 and on the very low end to up around 2.5 grams per kilogram of body weight, depending on a multitude of factors, but how much you like to train, your physical activity level, how much you train in the gym, and a bunch of other things. And really preference as well. So people like higher protein intake, some people like lower. The interesting thing with protein is that as you go from a very low level of protein up to a medium level, you get a dramatic increase in positive benefits. But as you start to keep climbing, more is not better. So you need a sufficient amount of protein. Everyone's a little bit different, okay? And then also resistance training as well. You need to be able to give your muscles a reason to be able to grow. Essentially, when we're working out, we are creating little micro tears in our tissue. We are consuming foods and nutrients, predominantly from protein. They're going to go in and start to rebuild and repair the broken down tissue. So we need sufficient protein and we need enough of a stimulus to be able to grow that tissue. And also controlling inflammation as well. A lot of people are caring more about foods that are going to decrease inflammation, more alkalizing foods, for example, more fruits and vegetables, for example, that are going to keep inflammation low. Because people don't want to be in the whole point is people don't want to be in a constantly unhealthy state as they're starting to really realize the negative aspects of things. If we're looking at things from a protocol perspective as it relates to longevity, resistance training, as I mentioned, zone 2 work for mitochondrial health. Your mitochondria essentially is the powerhouse of the cell. So all the kind of magic happens. We want really good mitochondrial density, but also mitochondrial efficiency. Many other works, but aerobic work or zone 2 work is going to be really beneficial for that. And it's easy to be able to do. If you're a lazy fucker and you don't like training really hard, zone 2 is actually quite easy to be able to do. And we're looking at decreasing junk volume in terms of your training, not just going and doing things for the sake of doing it, but understanding why the hell you're doing what you're doing is going to be really important because it gives you specificity, it gives you an outcome. If I was to say to you, hey, we're going to go run a marathon, but all I did was swim. Like I'm doing a ton of volume, but I'm doing it in all the wrong places. So what we want to do is get a little bit more specific about trainers. This is where coaches come in, regardless of the coach. It's understanding, hey, what do I need to achieve? Who do I reach out to? What are the questions that I need answering as well? I work with lots of athletes in many different endeavors, everything from CrossFit to boxing to jiu-jitsu to MMA to me being a ex-professional athlete myself to rugby league, soccer, baseball, a multitude of others, and working with athletes at everything anywhere from gem pop to semi-professional and even professional level. It's important to understand that across the board, the more specific that we can get to the individual, the greater chance of the outcome that they want. When you've got a genetic predisposition to be a bit of a freak of nature, it becomes less important because you can kind of get away with anything. But even so, the more specific that we get to, whether it's the sport or the specific outcome, this is why it's important to have a goal or a direction of where the fuck you want to go. It becomes easier on the coaching end because we know, hey, this person wants this specific outcome. Let's reverse engineer that and put in these specific things in place, which increases the likelihood that if they follow the program, which is a big if, they are going to get the result that they want. People are also starting to look at things like prioritizing protein and are more calorie conscious, especially when it looks to longevity. People are trying to go with a minimal effective dose. I don't want to consume just thousands of calories. But this is very dependent on the individual, by the way. If you are an athlete or if you work out an absolute ton, it might be a good idea to consume enough calories, which again is just a unit of energy, if you don't know. Okay. Calories is just the word that we made up. Humans try and understand things a little bit more. But people are becoming more calorie conscious. How many calories do I need? What is a calorie? Which leads into protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and other vitamins and minerals such as micronutrients. What specific vitamins do I need? What are the benefits of the vitamins of A, D, E, K? What are they going to do to me? Do I need to supplement with something? Do I need to supplement with creatine, multivitamin, fish oil? People start to ask more questions when it comes to longevity, which is great. And there's also kind of the upper echelon there, or the upper level is the interventions. And those interventions are going to come from things like scans, like DEXA scans, in-body scans. Not 100% accurate. DEXA is the one that's probably the most accurate, but it costs fucking money. It costs, depending on where you are in the world. I think in Australia, it's like 150 to $300, depending on where you are. So it's fucking expensive, that. And most people could do without it. In fact, if you look in the mirror and you're like, I'm obviously holding on to too much body fat, you don't need a DEXA scan to tell you that. Or if you're really, really skinny, like, fuck, I probably should put on some muscle. You don't need a DEXA scan to tell you that. I would only use them at the start of a journey. It's a good idea. Let's just get some baseline here. And then maybe every 6 to 9 months, go do one. Or even 12 months, go and do one. Only when you've made some significant changes. But I find that a lot of people do them very frequently and they're just throwing money down the toilet. Same thing with blood work. Blood work can be very, very beneficial. Very, very beneficial. And I think it's important to be able to understand of why we're doing blood work. What are we trying to reveal? People that I found that need to do blood work already know, like, something's not right here. I need to go get some bloods done for that deeper intervention with a medical professional, a doctor, a GP, to be able to say, hey, these things are out of whack. Here's what we need to do. But let's say you didn't even go down that path, dietary interventions, interventions in general, blood work, and you just said, you know what, I'm going to start to watch what I eat a little bit more. I'm going to eat more whole foods, less trans fats, less processed foods. I'm going to start to exercise a little bit more, whether that is joining the gym, walking, just doing a cycle class, going for a swim, just some kind of movement on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be anything crazy intense. I'm trying to sleep a little bit more. I'm going to get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep per night. I'm going to do a few things for stress management, meaning I'm just going to try to chill the fuck out a little bit because we're in a world where we always just want more. More is better. More work, more hustle, more grind. Fuck me. Like, where does it end? Where does it end? And how productive are we really being when we're just trying to do more? And that's another objective thing that you can look at. It's like, let me look at the outcome. Let me look at the output here. More is not always better. You're saying is better is better. And there's obviously a lot of nuance there, but trying to do better work, more effective work, more efficient work doesn't just come from doing more. Suffice it to say, there's a lot of interesting things that are coming in 2026. A lot of really cool things. All the things that I mentioned there, the GLP-1s, looking at AI, looking at longevity, those are three of the big things that you're going to see massive changes in. There's a lot of really cool companies coming out that do some really good things. So I'm excited for it. But I always say to people is go into any conversation or piece of research with an open mind and also a curious mind. Don't be afraid to ask why. Even to this shit that I'm saying today, just ask why. Like, why do you believe that? Why is that? If you disagree, especially. And from the people that know what they're talking about, especially the people that have been in the industry for a little while, you'll always get an answer to that why. So with all the cool things that are coming up in 2026, all the longevity things, it's incredibly important to be aware of everything, but also know your own psyche, know your own psychology. Don't get bought into the chaos and the nonsense of things, but also know there is a lot of positive things that are going to impact a lot of people in a really beneficial way.